Howard Nomberg with the Nomberg Law Firm in Birmingham, and we've come up with a list of do's and don'ts, red flags, things that can derail a work comp claim, and we wanted you guys to be mindful of these things as we go forward with the case. None of these things are in any particular order or of importance, just collectively they should be really adhered to. And I'll also put these in the comments section below when we post the video. The first and foremost thing is hiring an attorney who promises you a certain dollar amount or promises you that they only get the big checks. You've seen the ads with the big poster boards or somebody on TV promising, hundreds of thousands of dollars or the like. Well, that's not very realistic in an Alabama work comp claim. The amount in a work comp claim is really largely dependent upon the particular facts and circumstances of each case, because every injury is different, every average weekly wage for that injured worker is different, and the like. And you can't compare one state's laws and results with Alabama's, because Alabama's laws are so unique. Along those lines, always tell the truth, never lie. Lying only creates problems for credibility of the injured worker. Telling the truth is always the easiest and best option. Don't miss doctor's appointments. When the authorized treating physician has set up an appointment, don't miss that appointment without a very good reason. If you have a need to miss that appointment, please give us a call as soon as possible so we can get it rescheduled, because we don't want to create a situation where you're not compliant with your medical care, which could lead to end up losing the rights to benefits. Along those same lines is please always continue to stay in communication with our office and whichever attorney is handling your case. We try our very best to stay in communication with you, but by not hearing from you for periods of time, it really creates problems for us moving your case along. Another thing that could harm your case is when your doctor has released you back to work in some capacity, and the employer says they can accommodate that, but you then refuse to go back to work to try to work. Again, that can create a situation where you can be terminated. You could lose your medical care rights in a case. If the doctor has released you and there are certain restrictions and limitations, but the employer can accommodate that, you have the obligation to go try. You may not be able to handle it, but if you don't go and make the attempt, then you're going to lose certain arguments that you would have otherwise. One thing I should have mentioned earlier when it came to always telling the truth, that if the doctor or you're a lawyer, or if you're in a deposition and you're under oath particularly, and you're asked about prior medical history, always tell the truth. Even if you think that it's not going to that it's not going to be helpful, that it's going to be adverse to your case, you must tell the truth of all prior medical history. There are certain laws under the Alabama Work Comp Act that can help to protect you, even if you have the same exact injuries that you have now. Let the lawyers deal with that part of it, but always tell the truth. And speaking of being in a deposition, don't lose your cool when you're being asked certain questions that you don't like. Let your lawyer handle those issues. Hopefully prior to the deposition you've already talked about those things, but just be cool, calm, and collected and answer those questions under oath. When you are finished with your medical care and we resolve your case somehow, but you keep your medical care open going into the future, go back to the doctor from time to time, once a year, twice a year. Even if you don't have any symptoms, you need to go back so that you have a consistent record in your file, so later on, if we have an issue, we can look back and show that you've gone to the doctor each of those periods of time, and that'll help clear up some potential issues. The last couple of things to share with you is expectations about your case. In Alabama, you can't get pain and suffering damages or punitive damages, lost wages, and the like. Most Alabama workers' compensation cases are based on what we call the schedule. If they're not on the schedule, then their body as a whole and potentially vocational damages can be considered and the like. But there's no such thing as million-dollar cases in Alabama in work comp. So have some realistic expectations after you've had a thorough discussion with your attorney. And speaking of attorneys, and this will be the last thing that I mentioned in our list here, is jumping from attorney to attorney because you're dissatisfied with what you're hearing creates a red flag for whichever attorneys are interviewing you. You may have certain things in your mind that you want out of your case, but whether they mesh with what the law allows needs to be compared, because you need to be with an attorney who's experienced in work comp matters and can explain the law to be able to show you what the realistic results can be in your case. If you have any questions about any of these things, please give us a call. This is the kind of work that we do. Nomberg Law Firm can be found at nomberglaw.com. Our office number is 205-930-6900. We also have YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.